What's going on, fight fans? My name is Jake Littman, hosting the Behind the Cage Door podcast. And today I have a very special guest to bring to you all, Andre Petroski. How's it going, Andre?
Doing well, brother. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on. I really appreciate it. So, for those of you that don't know who Andre is, he's 9-1 as a pro, 4-0 in the UFC. He's alumni of Tough Season 29. If you haven't watched, episode one's all about him, so definitely tune into that. But Andre is a great guy. He's a grappler, a wrestler, and an unbelievable MMA pro. So it's just amazing to have you here. So Andre, you're a Philly guy. The Eagles this weekend. What are we thinking?
Man, I always root for him, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm not like the best fan ever. Um, it's hard, man. For me, like it's hard to watch anything besides fighting.
I feel
I
that.
just, I don't know, man. Like everything's boring to me besides fighting. Like even like hockey, I'm just like, are they gonna fight or what?
And that's by far the best part of hockey.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I cheer for them, I root for them, but it's hard for me to watch, to be honest.
It makes sense. This weekend's gonna be a big game though. Big for the city of Philadelphia. Philly's like a second home to me, so definitely got them in the back of my heart this weekend. But that actually leads right into it. You've been competing your whole life. You've been wrestling. You've been grappling. So really, the first thing I want to ask you is, what really makes a great wrestler, a great grappler, and then how does that differentiate from a great MMA wrestler and a great MMA grappler?
I think that like mindset is just as important, if not more important, than skill set. Um,
And you know what? That's not a problem because honestly, really what I want to get at it here is you wrestled your whole life and you've got such a drive to compete. And that mindset, like you said, is so important. So, what started that competitive nature? Was it the wrestling or what really got you into that?
I would say mostly my dad. Honestly, I was like 2 or 3 years old, so I think part of it was like I had that like that hunger inside of me. I had something inside of me from the beginning, but my dad was a really good trainer and a really good coach. So I think he had like a good way of kind of like cultivating that. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, obviously that competitive nature of yours, it really, I mean, it's what's driven your career. I feel like you've been able to get people out of the fight early and you've been able to take it long and go the distance. So I think that competitive nature is really probably what really is the most important part of MMA, in my opinion. And so I guess going back to the whole wrestling and grappling thing, how did you take your wrestling style and all of that knowledge that you've gained through your whole life and translate it to the MMA sport?
I think that like even when I just wrestled, I still had um, like a fighter's mentality, kind of, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I always just like even in like big wrestling matches, like I always like thought of it as like a fight, kind of, and so that it was kind of just like adding the skill set um, when it came time to like translating over from wrestling to MMA.
Yeah, absolutely. You got any good, like really good wrestling stories that really helped propel you into your career now?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I wrestled at Bloomsburg, I was at Bloomsburg in 2013. I wrestled there, and my teammate, one of the captains on the team, was Frank Hickman, and him and his brother are actually the second in charge at. Well, they were 1 and 2 at Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand, and then they actually just recently left and started their own gym. I think it's called Bang Tao, but yeah, I don't know. Like, there's definitely been a lot of people uh, throughout my wrestling career that have motivated me to pursue martial arts.
And that's amazing, living out your dream. And it's not just for you; it's about the family too, and that's what's really amazing. Um, but one thing that I really want to talk about, and we spoke about this a little bit at the last Fury grappling event, but when you were on Tough, like that forced you to go even for me, one thing that stuck out from that season really was when you got on there, you said at the first episode that the style of that tournament was built for you. And I'm assuming that's from wrestling tournaments and wrestling backgrounds. But what really about Tough was able to take your background in wrestling and that tournament style and really help you grow from the challenges that Tough brings to you?
Um, well, I think that like the format, I guess one reason why like the format was so um, was good for me was just because I was used to like doing like these like almost like long training camps and then wrestling in a tournament with a few competitions afterwards. So like I was already comfortable with competing multiple times in like a short period, which isn't as common in fighting. Like most times in fighting, guys fight every 3 months or so. But I had been used to competing very often, and my weight wasn't like an issue at the time. I wasn't cutting like a bunch of weight, but yeah, I don't know. Like what it reminded me of was kind of like Fargo in high school. We would do like in the summer, like there was like a big like freestyle tournament in Fargo, and every state would send like two representatives, and so Pennsylvania had two guys, and we would go and we would do like a camp before we would go to the tournament, and it kind of like it was just like a similar format to the Ultimate Fighter. So nonetheless, I just felt comfortable with the whole setup and like kind of being isolated from everything. No phones, no TV, no radio. Like I just I guess I've been in similar situations in the past, and I was just comfortable in it.
Hey, and you know what? You succeeded, and so that's all that matters. And one thing, I mean, you were there with no phones. I mean, 16 dudes, no phones, no technology. So you got any stories, anything crazy, something that wasn't shown on TV that just like stands out to you? Of just this was the crazy that happened.
Yeah, there was the one kid that his name was Bryce. I think it was Bryce Mitchell. No, not Bryce Mitchell. Um,
Bryce Mitchell's a star.
what was that kid's name? Damn, he was a 35 pounder. He fights at 25 now, from Boston.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head, everybody from there.
In like the commercial, we were like fighting in the commercial.
Okay, I'm trying
I
to draw
forget his
back. I'm thinking
name,
none of the guys I'm thinking Boston.
but anyways, he had like this massive like cyst on his back, and like 3 days before his fight, we like popped it outside by the pool, and this shit was epic. Like if you ever watch like Dr. Pimple Popper, like it 100% would have been like the best episode on Dr. Pimple Popper ever. And they never put it in the show. And I was like, God damn. And I even hit up the producers and I was like, yo, you gotta send me that footage at some point. And they never did.
They never sent that. That's crazy.
Nah.
That's crazy. That's hysterical, though. I mean, and I guess he
Yeah.
couldn't go out and fight with that on his back either.
Yeah.
No, that would have been gross. But I mean, and speaking of all the other guys, I mean, the first guys that come to my mind from your season, guys like Brian Battle, Trayshawn Gore, Dan Argueta, all these guys have made it to they made it to the UFC with you. So when you see, looking back on it, see your success and compare it to the other guy's success, what are like the first things that come to your mind reflecting back on your experience?
I'm grateful that they've offered me, as many fights as they have. I mean, I can't speak on everyone else's situation, but like, like Urbina, like still hasn't fought, so like, I don't know. Like I don't know if he hasn't been offered fights or if he's just like turned them down. But even like Brian Battle like has only had I think 2 fights
Yeah.
since the finale. So um, I obviously have done. I did well. Like I went 4-0, but I had 4 fights. Like those guys weren't. They didn't get that many fights. There's a lot of guys that were on the show that haven't fought since.
And that's crazy to think about. I mean, they really committed a whole chunk of their life to go do this and dedicate everything
Yeah.
to it. And so, I mean, really thinking about that, you've gone 4-0. Like, did it change you at all, or did it change your preparation, or did it just help enhance the skills that you already had there?
Did what enhance?
The whole experience.
I think it was just eye opening to like um, what I can do if like you remove all the distractions. So like if you take away like all the distractions and you're literally your only responsibility is like going to practice and getting better every day. Um, it just shows that like I can do well in that scenario. That's
Right.
what it was to me. So if there's ever a question of whatnot, like me being able to focus on solely focus on the job at hand is a good situation for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And how do you go about now that you're back in the real world, you're not in the house, how do you go about,
Yeah,
still being able to block everything out?
yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not easy. I have a kid, um, but I'm lucky now. Like I don't. When I originally left the show, I was still working, so I would have to go to work every day. I was still doing privates, like I was still training people. So luckily now, like I'm in the position where I only have to fight. Like that's my only job is to fight and obviously be a father. But it is definitely much easier when I don't have to worry about those other things.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned your daughter Riley, right?
Yeah.
Is she going to be a mini you at any point in time? Is she coming to the gym with you?
We'll see. I mean, she's always in the gym. Like, obviously, I'm in the gym all the time. So when I have her, she's with me in the gym. Um, but we'll see. She's sometimes she shows an interest in it, and sometimes she doesn't. So if she never wants to compete, if she never wants to fight, that's fine. But she'll always be in the gym no matter what. Like she doesn't have a choice there. Like her father is. I'm her father, so she has no choice. She'll be in the gym.
Hey, and that's amazing. And maybe one day she'll decide to step in and then give it a shot. You never know.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so did she watch the season with you? Oh, you still there?
Then when the show was on, she'll be like, "Oh, Daddy, you got to win! Like, Daddy wins." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" You know what I mean? And she's like, she's talking about fighting. She's like, "Daddy wins." I don't think she entirely knows what that means, but now she's starting to say
And you know what? Daddy's been winning a lot, so
it.
she may as well get used to saying it.
Yeah.
Um, and so one thing that I really compare the Ultimate Fighter to is something that I've seen a lot in MMA. And I don't want to talk about James Krause, but the James Krause situation, ever since he stopped coaching, a lot of the guys that train at his camp, they've struggled. So when you went and left and you had these new coaches, was that a struggle for you?
Um, no, honestly, I'm very grateful that I was welcomed with open arms into um, the Daniel Gracie, John Marquez team. Um, me and Piper left bounce at really at the same time, and we both joined this team, and we've had so much success since we've got there. Like Pat and Sean and Jeremiah, like these guys have been with them since day one. So they've spent like, the last 10, 15 years with these guys. We've only been with this team for, probably 3 years. So, but just to be on like such a winning team, like where everyone is just winning, like it really is like a contagious, the atmosphere is very contagious. So, when everyone's winning, it's just easy. I don't know, like it's more enjoyable. Like I've been on so many teams since I was a kid, and I've been on winning teams, I've been on losing teams, and when the guys around you are winning and having fun, like it's so much easier.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Losing sucks.
Yeah.
And so really going off that, when you look back at, your childhood, what other sports did you play? What really brought you that team mentality that made you a good teammate that you're able to now go transition to different gyms, different camps, and be able to work with all sorts of different types of people?
Um, I played football growing up. I played football since I was a little kid. Um, I was pretty good at it, but somewhere in high school, we got a new coach, and he like didn't want me wrestling in the summer, and so my dad kind of not forced me, but he pushed me to quit football, and I just wrestled year round. Um, but yeah, I just really just wrestling and football, and my dad ran a karate studio, so I was always like in there, and I hated it, but yeah, I was always in like the karate gym, just tormenting people.
And so it literally started from the beginning and never stopped.
Yeah,
What position do you play in football?
I was really good at D end. Like I was like really fast off the line, and I could always beat the linemen. And but then like I always would have coaches that be like, "Oh, you're so fast. Why don't you?" And they would try to force me to play linebacker, and I was never like, I could never like make that split second decision of like, am I trying to cover the pass or do I blitz the quarterback? Like, I don't know. So I always did better at the end.
Pin the tail on the donkey, kind of. Just go and
Yeah,
get the
yeah,
quarterback.
yeah.
Nah, that's dope. I played a little bit of linebacker myself, and it's not easy. The end. I wish I had the body type for that.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing I see, and I think it comes from that competitive background, seeing your dad a coach, growing up in the karate studio, wrestling, football. A lot of the times, I feel like that helps with communication skills. So I've seen you corner a bunch of guys from your camp now. And so, how did all these lessons that you've gained help you corner these guys? I mean, obviously, you know how they're feeling from your own experiences, but how do you help them succeed as well?
Well, first off, I think it helps that like I've been in there. I think that I've experienced like no matter what it is that if I'm cornering one of my teammates, like no matter what they're going through in that round, in between rounds, like I feel like I've been through it. So whether they're they've been rocked and they're hurt in between rounds, or whether they dominated the round or they're just getting out wrestled, like I feel like I've been through most of those situations. So at the end of the day, like they can relate, and I can try to give them advice that's coming from a guy that's been in there. Not that that's necessarily like absolutely necessary. Like um, like for us, a hobby, and some of the best coaches never fought. And what's Conor McGregor's coach's name?
Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I have the gym, SBG, but why am I drawing a blank on?
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, a lot of coaches never fought, but I do think it helps. Like I have coaches that have and haven't fought, and the guys that have, at the end of the day, it's like it does matter. You know what I mean? Like to know that this dude's been through it in in the real shit, and they know what they're talking about. It does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, thinking about your own experiences fighting and getting cornered, what's like that big piece of advice that really sticks in your head that that got you out of the hole?
Mm, I don't know. The only thing that comes to my mind is just like really just like believing in yourself, like keeping that like internal dialogue, like keeping it really positive, and you know, no matter like how tough it gets, just like, you know, we can do this. You know, I can do anything. That type of mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, are some of these lessons that you've garnered from MMA and fighting and wrestling, combat sports, are these some of the things that you instill in your daughter as a father as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, like martial arts, even if you never like compete or if you never like want to actually like be a fighter, I think that you can learn like just as much in martial arts as you could like in school. And um, like Brian Ortega is like the perfect example, man. Like um, Brian like dropped out of school like and like Henry will tell always tells the story like Brian in like ninth grade just started like coming to all the day classes, and Henry was like, wait a second, like why isn't this kid in school? Like, and it took him like months to figure out that like Brian like literally wasn't going to school like in high school, and he'll even talk about it. He's like, dude, my parents are both first generation like Mexican immigrants. Like, he's like, I learned everything from Henry Gracie. Like, he taught me how to speak English. He taught me like, you know, life lessons. He taught me everything like through jujitsu and through martial arts. Like you know, he talks about how he learned way more from that school than he did from like going to high school.
And unfortunately, that's how the school system sometimes is. Sometimes it's not built for everybody. And I guess
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
martial arts is, I mean, for an individual sport, it's so team based and team oriented. And me, I've learned so much from my teams and my experiences as a part of teams. So that definitely makes sense. And I can relate to that a little bit as well. And so you mentioned Ortega, who obviously he's competed at the best level. You competed with him and his coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, some of the best at your weight class. And like you said earlier, at your gym, you've got some of the best there. So, taking all these lessons that you've learned and competing with all the best people, how do you keep striving for that excellence, striving for greatness?
Honestly, at this point in my career, like I feel like I've been doing this for so long. Like I need to get. There's got to be like. There's got to be like a gold at the end of the rainbow. Like I've been in this for way too fucking long not to cash out and not to get something special. And I don't see any like. I know what my skills are. Like I want to fight for the title. I want to have a belt around my waist. Like and I don't see any reason why that's not attainable.
Absolutely. And so that belt, is that the top goal? Is it headlining a pay-per-view? What is that top aspiration?
Yeah, the belt for sure. Especially like now, like when I watch Pereira like beat Adesanya, I'm just like, motherfucker, like I know that if you get me on the ground with this motherfucker, I know that I can beat him. Like it's just a matter of like putting me in the right position to succeed.
Right. And so actually, speaking of that, it's a great little transition. Uh, Pereira just beat Adesanya. Leon just beat Kamaru. So when you saw those fights, were you learning anything from there, or were you just analyzing the competition?
I just think that the game has evolved so much and end up battle now dangerous on the ground anymore. And I think that that's what differentiates me from the rest of the division.
And I feel like I've heard you say that more than a couple times. You're the best wrestler. You're the best grappler. You're the best on the ground. You've called out Bo Nickel. You've called out GM3. So how are you going to really set that standard? How are you going to make it so everybody knows that you are the best?
You there, brother?
Yeah. You got me?
Yeah. What did you? My bad. You were cutting out for a little bit there. What'd you say?
No, it's all good. So I was saying, like, I feel like I've heard you say that a couple times that you're the best. You're the best wrestler. You're the best on the ground. So, and you've called out Bo Nickel. You've called out GM3. So how are you going to really make sure everybody in the division knows you are the best? You're the best of the best.
I'm just gonna keep taking out the best guys. Like that's as I continue to do. I would love to fight Adolfo Vieira, a jiu-jitsu world champion. I would love to fight Bo Nickel, three-time NCAA champion. Like these are the guys I'm asked for. Mearshart, obviously, I've asked for him multiple times. He has the most submissions in the middleweight history. Like, I keep asking for these matchups. Like, I want these matchups. It's just a matter of like these guys being willing to fight me.
Yeah, and so that actually is a great transition again. What does it come down to for you when you get a fight across the table and you get an offer? What does it take for you to say, yeah, I'm in?
Honestly, if you give me a full camp, like there's not many fights I'm going to say no to. Um, Especially now, like now that I'm 4-0 and I'm in a good position, I want like I just want some time to prepare for a specific opponent. I know that now that I've had 2 full camps, like I know how that I do well when I can prepare for a specific opponent. Like I'm a student, I'm a very good student, so like I watch and I study my and I'm good at putting a plan together for 6 weeks to prepare for a single opponent. So I like that. I have taken the short notice fights. Obviously, in the past, my first 2 fights were all both short notice, and I don't mind doing that too. But if I'm going to fight the best, the top 15, the top 20 guys in the world, like give me 6 weeks to prepare so I can put together the best plan.
Yeah, and I mean preparation, that's key. When you go in and you're preparing for a guy, what are you really looking for? Are you looking for ways that you can, exasperate his weaknesses, or do you try and identify the opposite, what his strengths are so that way you can build up your deficiencies to beat those strengths?
Uh, yeah. So, like for example, well, Maximov, first of all, he was like such a big favorite, but like I watched him grapple and I was like, dude, I'm better than this dude. And I saw like a lot of his mistakes that he was making, shooting with sloppy head position and whatnot. And that was like my shit. So that whole front headlock series is what I was already working even before we signed to fight Maximov. So yeah, the answer to your question is yeah, I look at their weaknesses, I look at where they're weak, and I'm like, yeah, I want to exploit that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I mean, I think we've seen it now time and time again, Don't shoot a stupid takedown on Andre Petroski because he'll take advantage of that, and don't do nothing stupid at all because he still will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And so, you're known as a ground guy. What do you think it'll take for people to say this guy's a damn good striker too?
I think my last fight was like the first time I really was able to display my striking um, for like long periods of time. Like I was touching up Wellington a lot in the first round. Um, I think that yeah, like if you watch my last fight from my first UFC fight, you can see like a drastic improvements.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm sure your next fight, we're going to see a whole other level to it. You got some karate tricks in the bag that old dad taught you back in the day. So I just have a couple more questions for you. And one really for me is I think the walkout is probably the coolest part of a fight because to me it's the culmination of all the preparation. It's the culmination of everything. So for you, how important is that walkout for you, and what's your mental process as you're walking out to make yourself ready to go?
Well, it's interesting. Like the last, I would say there were like 2 completely different walkouts. So obviously, 2 of my 4 fights were at the Apex, and then 2 of my 4 fights were in front of crowds. So at the Apex, there was really no crowd. It's like a very small setting, and it's just different. I don't know. It's like more calming, but it's like I don't know. I prefer the arena. So my first crowd was Abu Dhabi, which is weird. Like it's not the same. Like just very like mild mannered people. Everyone like 90% of the crowd was wearing like the full headdress. We're in essentially Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi, so it wasn't really like an electric crowd like MSG was. MSG was nuts. Like that shit was crazy. So when I walked out for MSG, that was like that was such a memorable experience that I'll never forget. Like I will never forget that. Yeah, like even the people that didn't know me in the arena, like you got 20,000 people in an arena. Even the people that didn't know me were still chanting like USA the whole time. Like that shit was electric. That was definitely an experience that I'll never forget.
That's one way to get the adrenaline going, for sure. And so one thing also about the walkout, when you're picking your walkout song, what are you thinking about? Like what goes into that decision for you?
So in the past, I would do shit like just like songs that I like that like get me hype or whatever. But for the um for the New York card, like I wanted to like appeal to like the Philly fan base, so I came out to Meek Mill, and I don't know, like I'm not like a big rap fan, but Meek is definitely one artist that like I've grown up listening to since I was like a little kid. So that kind of meant a lot to me, especially like fighting so close to home, which I never thought like I'd have the opportunity to do that again. But nonetheless, yeah, it was special.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I'm sure you had all your people there, your hometown, and I mean everybody loves Meek. I mean, I did one semester in Philly at Temple, and I saw one concert of Meek, and it was like it was nuts. It was a movie. It was
Yeah.
crazy. So I can only imagine now you have everybody chanting, rooting you on. You got your people out there, and now you're about to get in the cage, and Meek's turning everybody up, and you're ready to go. So that's cool. I mean, I don't know. So coming from someone who doesn't fight, that's the one experience that like if I ever were to fight, I need to have a crowd, music, like that. That's something I need. Um, but that's just me. Nobody cares about me. My last real question for you. I just want to know, you go down that walkout, you got your family in the crowd. How do you separate that? You're a girl dad and you're a good community man. How do you then flip the switch and say it's time to fight?
I don't know, man. Like I've been competing since I was like literally 3 years old. So I'm 31. So 28 years of my life, I never took a summer off. I never took a year off. Knock on wood, I've never had an injury that set me back for a year. Like I've literally been doing one-on-one combat sports since I was for 25 years, 28 years. So for me, it's just like it's just competition. I don't know. Like I guess I'm just used to it at this point.
And once you get good at something, you may as well just keep sharpening the toolkit and perfect it. But I mean, we're running out of time on the Zoom. I know you've got a whole lot of stuff to do. I just really want to say thank you. I mean, it was just unbelievable to have you here. This is my first interview ever, so thank you so much.
I appreciate it, brother. Nice talking to you.
You as well, you as well. Stay well, safe travels, and next time you hit the slopes, let me know. I'm down.
See you, brother.
Take it easy. Have a good one.